Tape www suivi d'école au Sénégal.com. À école au Sénégal, c'est facile, tu n'as qu'à te connecter. Tape école au Sénégal, les leçons sont beaucoup plus détaillées.
Size and numbers. When we talk about size, it talks about the largeness. It talks about the quantity, or the it talks about how large it is. And so the size, what would you say when it comes to size? Oh, is it thin? Is it fat? For example, is it the big? That size. Is it gigantic? Or is it a tall, or a medium size? Just a medium sized fella. Especially when you're trying to describe someone. Say, oh, it's a medium size. Someone broke into my home last night. Could you be able to describe that person? How does he look like? Say, oh, it was a medium sized person. It was a thin person. It was a chubby person. It was a fat person. We don't usually like to say fat, but maybe a fat animal, or a thin person, or slim. Those are some words that you can use as far as sizes are concerned. And sizes could be both for animals. Remember, I said it could be persons or a something or someone. And so that something could be quite large, quite enormous, quite fat, quite huge. Those are all sizes, or that person could be quite tall, that person could be quite slim, quite muscular, those are all sizes for persons. Okay, and that's you describing. But when we talk about numbers, what are the numbers? When you describe it, well, that person comes, maybe you can say maybe that person comes once, or twice, or thrice, or you can say two, one, or two, you can say a few, many. Those are numbers, a few, many, a lot of times. Those are as far as you're generalizing the numbers. Well, he comes a lot to my place. A few times, I've had those calls a few times at night. So you're trying to tell that person that, well, it's been a couple of times. That's numbers. It doesn't necessarily have to be in detail, like 4 times a week, or 5 times a month, or 10 times a day. You can say a couple of times a day, a lot of times a week, twice a month, or once a year, or thrice a year. Those are all numbers. 1, 2, 3, a few, many. So those are numbers, okay, sizes and numbers, okay. And then when we move to, what about senses? Sometimes we feel like senses are not, but senses as well, it's a huge part as far as describing concern. When we talk about senses, it's a huge part as far as describing a concern. And when we talk about that sensory, it's what are they? You have the vision, you have the feeling, that's the touching, you have the smelling, you have the tasting, and you have the hearing. Those are our 5 senses. And these are very, very important when it comes to descriptions, when it comes to describing. Okay, it's very important that these sensories get very sensitive. Let me put it that way, if I could put it that way. They're very, very sensitive. And so you need to be very careful when, as far as descriptions are concerned, because not only would you describe the physical about what you see, because most oftentimes shapes and colors and sizes and numbers are like the physical, what you see, and the physical stuff. But these are more like the sensory part. Are they very active? Are they very sensitive enough so that you're able to describe it in such a way that even if you're absent, but at least your ears are active, your nose is active, and so it's important, okay, that even if you're not able to see, for example, but your touch, is it that active? Are you able to distinguish? Are you able to make a difference? Are you able to get in details if one part maybe was inactive? And so we have the sensory part, and here we have the touch, of course, which comes from feeling. When you feel, when you touch something, you're feeling something by touching. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it warm? And then you have the sound. What is it that you hear when something falls? What's that sound? Because it depends on what falls. A pot or a pen will fall, and a pen will fall, but the effect of it, they're all different. The sound effect are different. One is heavier than the other. The sound can be heavier than the other. Even the bell, like cloche, even the bell sometimes, the heavier bells, the sound much more heavier, much more stronger than just the simple bells. And so how do you get to distinguish it? How do you get to describe it, even if you are not close by but far away, but at least that you heard it? So sensories are very, very important, and they're used oftentimes as far as crimes are concerned, or oftentimes with the handicaps, especially maybe those that are handicapped with your senses, maybe blind or something, their sensories become very, very active, and so that is the sound. And then you have the taste. If you're trying to describe something about, what's your palate, because your tongue has divided into different palates, the sweet, the sour, the salty, and things like that. And so your taste, when you get it, when you put it in your mouth, how does that taste? How does it feel in your mouth? What's that after feeling, or even before feeling? So that is taste when it goes into your mouth. And then of course you have the smell, which is pretty important. The smell, it's quite strong. What do you perceive? What is it that you perceive? What is it that you smell? What is it that that you get? And so we're going to look at a bunch of examples. I think the only thing, so those are the senses. I think the only thing here that is lacking as far as senses are concerned are the eyes. And why? Because with all the shapes and numbers, it's more focused on the eyes. What you see, what's the color that you saw, what's the shape that you saw, what's the size of the numbers. So these are more sight. That's why it's not often part of the senses, okay? Because these ones are more of the vision, So they're still part of the senses, but these are more of the vision. And there's lots of other descriptives that you can add to it that we'll look at it after. And so let's get back to the senses. So touch. When you touch something, for example, how does it feel when you touch? How does it feel? What is it? Is it slimy? Like, how do you guys call those things that kids use all the time? Glue and the slimy stuff. Is it slimy when you touch it? Is it fluffy like pillows? It has a lot of, cotton or feathers. So is it a fluffy kind of pillow when you touch it, or is it bumpy? Bumpy means that it's not smooth. It has some kind of like rough edges. And so what are other examples? It could be that it's smooth, You know, that's, an example. Is it slimy? Is it fluffy? Is it hard when you touch it? Like, for example, the board, that's hard. Or is it soft, like a mattress, or, like a baby? Is it soft? Is it a soft kind of material when you touch it? Is it soft? Or is it rough? Bumpy also, another word for bumpy could be rough. It's rough. It's not smooth. It's not that smooth, it's rough. Those are touches when you touch something. Okay, what do you feel? Sometimes when you have goose pimples and you're touching yourself, you're like, oh, it feels very rough, or it feels so smooth. And so that is touch. And then what about sound? Like the music, boom, 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 boom. What would that be? Is it loud enough? Is it too loud? Is it quiet? Is it quiet enough? That's sound. Faint means it's just reducing. That's faint. Faint does not mean s'évanouir or to collapse, not necessarily. Faint means that the music is just light. It's just very light, that's faint. And then buzzy means that it has a lot of noise. That's something that is buzzy. That's a lot of noise. Raw means something that is quite loud, like those metallic music. If you know what metallic music, that's very raw, it's quite loud, of course. And then you have loud and you have quiet. The sound is very quiet. It's a quiet sound. Everywhere is just simply just nude. It's just a quiet kind of place, so that's the sound. And then when it comes to taste, is what comes into your mouth. How does it feel? I told you that the tongue is split into 5 sections, and then it has different tastes. And sometimes we lose taste, that feeling of taste, especially those that were going through the epidemic, the corona epidemic. The virus really affected, it affected my palate, so I could not taste. I didn't know what was spicy, what was salty, what was, because it affected my taste, and so taste would be tart. You have tart, of course, we have spicy, which is something that Africans love a lot. And then, of course, you have sweet, you have, of course, salty, you have delicious, something that's delicious. You have bitter, bitter, ça signifie amer. And then you have something that's sour, qui est acidic. You have sour, or you can even have as well, it can be acidic. So you have different kinds of taste. Or it could be even nasty, nasty. Or sometimes you can say, it's bad. Nasty is something when food is rotten. So it's bad, it's rotten. It's bad, it's rotten, it's expired. So these are some different sweet or sugary. That would be another one, sugary, sugary taste. And then of course you have the smell. When you smell, what do you perceive? Perfumes are what? When you perfumes, it smells, it could smell some perfumes, it smells sweet as well. It smells sometimes food forgotten, could be rotten. It smells sweet, smells good, it's pleasant. Something could be pleasant. Okay, it's a pleasant smell. Okay, and so that's part of it. It could even be a bad smell. It could be a very bad smell. Could be a bad smell. A bad smell could be maybe something that's rotting, or the body, or of a dead person or an animal sometimes is really bad. It's really, really strong. So these are the senses: sight, touch, sound, taste, smell, that you can use to describe someone, somebody, something, a place, an event, an occurrence. You can use them, and there are plenty more examples as far as these categories are concerned that you can use them to describe, an event, and the descriptive words, okay, that you can use, and you can mix and match. Okay, you can mix and match whatever it is. You can say, oh, that cake was really delicious. It was sugary and delicious. The smell was such a foul smell. Foul smell means a very strong smell. You use foul smell most oftentimes for dead bodies or of persons or animals and things like that. It's a foul smell. It means it is such a strong odor. Okay, smell comes from odor, and that's how, comes from odor. That's the smell. It comes from odor. Okay, and then taste comes from what comes in, what you have in. And of course, sound is what you hear. What's the kind of what are you hearing? Is it such a strong vibration? And then touch comes from what you feel, and it's not really feeling like sentiments. Please take note. The touch is not really like your sentiments, but touch is what you're actually feeling. What do you feel when you touch something? It's not feeling like somebody hurting you or about your feelings or something, or about your sentiments. So please take note, okay? And so it's important. And then when you come to sizes and numbers, like I said, there are a whole bunch of sizes that you can use. Or examples that you could use. The colors, we all know all the colors that you can use. As far as the shapes, there are a whole bunch of shapes: hexagon, pentagon, circle, crescent, star, rectangle, square, the whole bunch of shapes that you can describe. So please get to know that descriptive words are just in detail about something or about someone, that you're going in detail, that you want to explain for clarity, so it's important that you know that, okay? And thank you.